So in today's video, we're going to be talking about phenomenology and how it relates to the experiences of gender nuanced people. Phenomenology is a branch of philosophy focused on the structure of experiences and consciousness. Phenomenology, it studies things as they appear to us without assuming anything about their objective or scientific reality. It tries to bracket and set aside assumptions and focus purely on how something is ultimately experienced by the subject. So, this is a continuation of our concept of natality and understanding what it is like to experience the lived world of a gender nuanced person from their perspective. What is it like to experience the life of, say, a rapper? What is it like to experience the life of a Black person who lives paycheck to paycheck? This is some of the questions that phenomenology posits to other people. Edmund Husserl is the founder of phenomenology, and he emphasized the essences of experiences. So Edmund Husserl is the founder of phenomenology, and he talked about how everything has their own essence. And when it comes to the experiences of gender nuanced people, our essences are sometimes concealed at the superficial level, right? But from the perspective of phenomenology, these essences can then be rediscovered ultimately when you begin to examine the different social dynamics that emerge between gendered people and gendered bodies. Martin Heidegger focused on being and human existence. So the concept of what does it mean to be a gender nuanced person? What is being? What does that mean? And the lived experiences of people who are ultimately gender nuanced. Maurice Merleau-Ponty, he explored embodied experience, especially how we perceive the world through our bodies. That this is where I get a lot of my content and a lot of my notes and my research from Maurice Merleau-Ponty, who really does a good job of breaking down this understanding of embodied consciousness, how as a Hansel and Gretel, as a gender nuanced man who has both masculine and feminine attributes, how that ultimately shapes not only your identity, but how you ultimately experience and live in the world and relate to other people. You also have Jean-Paul Sartre, who combined phenomenology with existentialism, asking how freedom and identity arise within the lived experience of a person. So we'll talk about this when we get to the dialectic of freedom and what that means for Black gender nuanced bodies and how we can ultimately begin to pin these sort of experiences of gender nuanced people within their correct historical context. And more specifically, in psychology, phenomenology refers to the study of subjective experience and how people interpret and give meaning to their inner and outer worlds. As within, so without. So this is where we get back into Hermeticism, as within, so without, as above, so below, como adentro, como afuera, mi aflorencia y la herencia la madre, right? We begin to understand how we are whole and complete already and what it is like to experience and how freedom and identity ultimately emerge within the lived experiences of people. Phenomenology in psychology is about understanding experience from the inside out. It values depth over explanation and sees each person's world as uniquely meaningful and shaped by their history, body, and relationship and choices. Seeing how having a variegated expression of gender is a phenomenological experience, as within, so without, from a social constructionist perspective, gender nuanced people have features that ultimately shape an understanding of themselves and the way that they interact with the world, their lived world. Also, as Black and Brown people, we say that because of our social historic roots and how we understand ourselves within a given social context, within a particular historical time period, how that ultimately leads us to understand ourselves at the phenomenological level. So this was a brief introduction to concepts of phenomenology and how they're going to ultimately emerge within the experiences of gender nuanced people.